Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Creator Clash. I'm sorry I had to take you away from Wordle. I know how much fun you all have in there, but we want to have more fun commentating over this beautiful format, which is timeless. We've got 16 of the best players all battling out in 5 rounds of arena to try and get themselves into that top 4 and walk away with the prizes. Who are we going to see this round, Anu?
Yeah, we're going to be watching Ash Lizzle play a interesting Retrofitter Foundry deck against Hall of Famer Reed Duke. And Reed is going to be playing a Grixis Lurrus build. Let's take a look at Ash Lizzle's list first.
Yeah, let's have a little look at what it does. This is we've said there's 16 different deck players, but 13 different decks, and Ash is on one of the spicier ones. You can see here we've got the red-white kind of build, but it's very heavily headed towards ornithopters, having Fopters in our deck and using them with the Foundry, turning them into big 4/4s and getting that big aggro damage in. We can make things giving you protection or give them unblockable with Giver of Ruins in there. We've got some real big hitters in here with the I can't pronounce the first one. The Reign of Truth, just giving +1/+1 to one of our creatures for 2 turns in a row, depending on how many artifacts and enchantments we have, and just getting that big final hit in. And then we've got a little bit of reach with Shrapnel Blast.
Yeah, this is definitely not my style of deck. I'll tell you this much. It gives me a lot of Crusher Bot vibes from, like the Hammer and community and things like that. But it's really exciting. I think Retrofitter Foundry is a very, very powerful card. People talk about it very highly in Vintage Q, but I think of it in terms of legacy, and being able to sack a card like Ornithopter to make a 4/4 as fast as turn 1 is extremely aggressive. So this card, very, very powerful. If it does get into play early, it can very quickly take over the game. Let's see how Ash Lizzle is going to play this game out. On the other side, we're going to take a look at Dr. Duke's deck list. I love that alliteration. And this is something that is very, well, it's a kind of a vintage vibe to it, right? We're playing Grixis Lurrus, and this is a deck list that definitely falls within Reed's wheelhouse. I mean, he was a champion of Grixis for a long, long time in Legacy, playing cards like Hymn to Torok and Thoughtseize alongside Snapcaster Mage Kolaghan's Command. And this is a pretty close impression. You have your discard, you have your efficient removal, and then you have cards like Treasure Cruise and Expressive Iteration to pull you ahead in this resource. This is basically about as Jund as a deck can get without playing the Jund colors.
I'm looking. I can't see any Lilianas of the Last Hope. So if you know chat, you know. If you know, you know. That's all I'm saying. It's very reminiscent of the.
I am right here. You know that, right?
I'm just saying, but it's good. We've seen both decks. We've seen both players. Let's get down to the gameplay and let's see who is going to be able to start this tournament off 2-0. Remember, 5 rounds of Swiss before we cut to that top 4. There's some other prizes on the line as well. We'll be talking about it later on, but look at these opening hands for both of these players. Looks like Ash is going first at the bottom of your screen here. And she's got some lands, she's got some spells. She's got a Tome 1 Ragavan over on Reed's side. It's got a few too many land potentially, but we'll see if he wants to keep that or not. But it is on Ash if she wants to keep this opening 7, as she is against the absolute powerhouse, the Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion now as well, Reed Duke. And she does decide to keep this. And looks like Reed's decided to keep as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into it. Ash Lizzle is one of the biggest, if not is one of the biggest arena streamers out there. I had the pleasure of watching her play this deck yesterday a little bit to sort of understand what was going on, and it is very, very impressive. Now, this is kind of a recipe for exactly how we expect these games to play out. Oh, and this is fascinating. Not leading with the Ragavan, but instead the Giver of Runes saying, hey, it's time for me to make sure this Ragavan is able to do what it needs to do. So we're going to protect it from removal spells in the form of lightning bolts and
Fatal Pushes.
Fatal Pushes. Yeah, thank you for finishing my sandwich.
I got you. It's because I'm looking now. I'm like, how many 1-drop answers? Remember, it is open deck list. She is fully aware of how many 1-mana answers does Reed have in his deck. And as it's open deck list, so the chances of him having that is, he knows what he's against. Keeping one of them is pretty high. But this Giver actually surviving right now means that we can start protecting. And now we can start getting this Barb Spike on the battlefield. Not only is it an equipment, but it brings along a 1/1 Fopter token. And that is exactly what we want. We want as many Fopters as we can so we can start turning them into big 4/4s.
Yeah, absolutely. The other card that's really interesting, you can see it in Ash Lizzle's hand right now, is Michiko's Reign of Truth. And the first ability is actually pretty powerful. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact in play. And so that is...
Enchantment. And enchantment.
Oh, and enchantment. Okay, yeah, kind of like the Nettlecyst, right? Yeah. So this Barbed Spike being sort of like the 2-for-1 value proposition here for a payoff like Michiko's Reign of Truth, very nice.
We're going to see how he wants to keep well, how Reed wants to go about this now. Obviously, now Giver's on the battlefield. Our first removal basically has to be pointing at the Giver. It's very hard to kind of sort out a combat scenario where you're going to be favored when your opponent's got the ability to give what the creature a protection from a color. And actually, she's got her third land. She is rocking and rolling right now. And as I said, probably one of, if not the biggest arena streamer. Super nice lady. I've had the pleasure of casting with her before. I think we did a tournament in Amsterdam, and super lovely. I'm privileged to have one of her tokens as well, personally signed by her. So hopefully she's going against the darling of Magic, I call it. It is Reduke. He is just perfect in every way. He's got the best hair in Magic. He's got Hall of Fame to his name. He's got Pro Tour champion to his name now. He's got Player of the Year, I think, to his name. He's got Online champion to his name. He's got pretty much every title you can win in Magic except for the Creator Crash champion. So he's going to try and get that here.
I mean, realistically speaking, he's probably going to take that too, just by the way he builds his decks and plays everything. He's about a very, very solid deck in for as his contender, his choice for this Friday, and it looks pretty solid. Although unfortunately, right now it does seem that he is flooding out a bit much. The good news is that we do play cards like Brainstorm to sort of alleviate any circumstances like the one that we're in right now. So we'll see how the game continues.
Yeah, it must feel really good when you know your opponent doesn't have a Orcish Bowmaster in their deck. Remember, that card is the most played card registered amongst our 16 competitors right now. I did want a little throwback to it's like everything that's right with Magic, right? Reed Duke with a Thoughtseizes on the stack. It's like
Yeah.
it's like perfect. It's just everything you want to see in Magic the Gathering. Here comes the third land drop for Ash. We're going to see this Declare War come down. Now, this again is going to make a 0/2 Fopter, but it has got the it's like one of the new kind of sagas that have come out. You can pick which chapter it starts on. So she's picking this one. She can tap any number of artifacts and deal that much damage to a target creature on the other side of the battlefield. 2 types away in the graveyard. We might see this lightning bolt fired off here to try and get that 4th type in the graveyard in response.
Yeah, this would be so sick if we can get a land into the graveyard here off of the Surveil trigger. The Dragon Search Channel would actually just survive and gain flying, which is honestly a very good proposition here for Reed. Now, that being said, though,
it's Fatal Push. It's Fatal Push. It's an instant.
Oh, okay. Never mind. So goodbye, Dragon's Rage channeler, and hello, Barb, Spike, and the Thopter entering into the red zone.
Yeah, so and that's kind of how she played it up. She took a risk. It is paid off massively here. Obviously, we know about Orcish. Well, we don't know. We know at home and everybody watching. There's an Orcish Bowmaster potentially coming down that can deal with this Fopton, especially now that the Giver of Runes has been taken off the battlefield. That opens up our removal a little bit more. But we might just see if we hit another land off the top, just something like a Lurrus going to hand. But this Ragavan is going to be tasty target.
Yeah, you could see sort of Ashes holding it here, wondering if she should play it or not, and eventually decides to. But the consideration of, hey, I haven't seen a Bowmasters yet. I don't think I should be playing this yet. That is a very, very heads up. That pause is like something that someone who has played a lot of Magic will definitely, just like it just comes naturally to them, right? To think about those kind of options and things like that. So looks like Reed, all things are coming up Reed here, though, with the Orcish Bowmasters to take care of the Ragavan, and then even the Fatal Push potentially now to take care of something like the Barb Spike should the Yoshio Declares War turn it into a creature.
Yeah, we're going to turn target artifact. It becomes a creature that is base power 4 and toughness 4. So I think she's saying if I go for the token, it could die in response to an Orcish Bowmaster. But if I just go for the equipment, then that can't be killed in response unless there's there's a kind of shatter effect on the other side, which we know there isn't. So big choice here. Does she want to try and high roll it, or is she just going to go with the safe option? Looks like she goes with the safe option here. And
Okay.
now we've got a 4/4.
Yep. I'm a fan of this stuff so far, but it does look like Reed might come out ahead of you. And here's the cool thing about these decks. The power level of Timeless, very high. So even if things should not go so well for us here, we have Lurrus. We can buy all these cards back. And that's something I'm sure Ash took into consideration when targeting the Barb Spike specifically, because if that goes to the graveyard, I mean, it is a 2-drop and Lurrus can cast it later on.
Yeah, it's one thing we haven't spoken about is both these decks being Lurrus decks. Remember, we can get things back from our graveyard later on. Lurrus, when it resolves on the battlefield, if it goes unchecked, you do just pull away with the game. Here comes the Orcish Bowmaster coming down. That's probably going to do a point of damage to the Fop to make a blocker for the Ragavan. We can just take this 4 damage. We're still at 16 life, so our life total pretty high. We do have access to the Fatal Push if things do go really wrong. And we just deserve it. Oh no, we are going to push it in response.
This is just good mechanics, right? Like this is just declare the block, then fetch, do the thing. We're still gonna fatal push it. The outcome is still gonna be exactly the same. But this is the reason why Reed Duke is in the Hall of Fame and I am not, because I would have just been like, whatever, fatal push, that's fine. And I'll probably there's a world out there where you could get punished for it. So
I was about to say, if this wasn't an open deckless tournament, I don't know if he makes that block or not.
oh, you
Like,
think so, really?
He knows that there's no like protection spell, 1 mana protection spells in Ash's deck because it is open deck list. If he was playing into this, like I'm not too sure he'd be blocking into it. He might just want to save his life total, but the potential chance to get blown out there is 0 because he knows the deck list, where beforehand it could be higher in 0. As we see a Dragon Rage Chandler being cast a turn, 3/3, Delirium is turned on. Here comes our 3rd land drop, and that is going to get Lurrus in hand. So both players have Lurrus in hand now. Springleaf Drum off the top.
Springleaf Drum is pretty good here. I mean, this is one of those cards that I kind of like in these style of decks, just being able to accelerate. Again, I mentioned this earlier in the last round, where you have cards like Deathrite Shaman and you have cards like Ragavan. And while you cannot play Deathrite Shaman in this deck, a card like Springleaf Drum does allow you to get on the board here. You could see play Springleaf Drum, tap the Lurrus, buy back maybe my Giver of Runes, or if I want to, maybe my Ragavan. And now the game is going to enter its second wave of resource attrition, as Reed is going to draw a copy of Inquisition of Kozilek.
And Reed's going to have what he wants here, though, because he does have the 2 mana opposed, where Ash only had the 1 and was forced to deploy a 1-drop there. We can get back our 2 drops if needs be of Lurrus. I would actually love to see an attack by Reed with this Orcish Bowmaster here into the 1/2. Like trying to say, do you have it? Do you have it? Do I have an Orcish Bowmaster? What do you think I've got? Like, trying to start the mind games turning in Ash's head here. And this is one part of Magic that we get to see so often, is playing around everything your opponent could possibly have and working out what the common denominator is. Is it worth me attacking with all? Is it worth me just the 1? Is it worth the chip damage? Do I get anything by getting the Gotta here or not? And he decides, no, I'm keeping the Bowmaster back. I'm going to deploy this Lurrus. I've only got a 1-drop I can cast. It is the another Dragon Rage Chandler, and he's going to close the game out real shortly in 2 turns. And land Inquisition, double Survey Trigger, which we know how powerful that is. It looks like we're keeping an Orcish Bowmaster on top of our deck. Everything can reduke right now.
This is such a disgusting turn. Oh, we're putting the Bowmasters into the that I like that. Like we just started with the Bowmasters and we had Dragon's Rage Chandler and then Lurrus into Inquisition into like the board just seems so brutal, honestly. Now I don't actually know how you come back from this, because this deck is not really, hailed for its ability to handle board states. In fact, it is generally because it is the one that is asking the questions. Hey, can you handle my 4/4? And so, I mean, Reed does feel pretty ahead here. Now, fortunately, Lurrus could technically attack. You use the Giver of Runes to give it like protection from black. Oh no, never mind. There's a Dragon's Rage Chandler. I take that back.
Well, we could go like Reign of Truth here. Give it +2/+2, and try and gain and get some like life linking. I believe it's First Strike as well potentially, but at least get some big damage in that way and kind of swing our life points back our way. But the problem with that is just block with the Orcish Bowmaster. It goes to the graveyard. Reed can recast it next turn, and we're seeing the Lurrus basically doing its thing. And if you don't have an answer for Lurrus, we're just going to see a lot of back and forth trades. These Dragon Rage channels might just get there because flying and being 3/3 is pretty good. Ash really in the tank here.
Yeah, this is the tough call for sure, I think. I think I like your line here of maybe getting the Reign of Truth and then just attacking, so that way you gain some amount of life back. And it looks like Ash is going to also do that. I mean, this is another way, right? Like if you're going to race, maybe you just gain life, but this is like Lurrus is so powerful. A lot of these threats in this format, they are just so powerful, which means that you get rewarded for interacting, right? Like we saw with the printing of Modern Horizons 2, how the modern format drastically changed to a format where it was less so about the threats and more so about the interaction. And I feel like that is what makes Timeless so incredible, is that you have these very powerful threats that have to be handled and mitigated. So that means you're now now playing these very powerful answers like Swords to Plowshares, which is a 4 of in the Shield Maiden's deck. And yeah, I mean, that's in the meantime, you just kind of have to figure out how to get there, use your resources and stuff like that. And I for one am quite impressed with this matchup, this how it plays out.
Yeah, this has gone very grindy real quickly. And I love this interaction here. Like, do you double block Lurrus? If you do, then we're just going to give it protection from the giver. So you have to chump. But more importantly, the 5 life is gained. Orcish Bowmaster goes to the graveyard. Ash is going to play her land for the turn and potentially either hold up, I guess, Mutable activation or drawing a card end of turn. I don't think there's much relevance to doing it right now because you just leave yourself open to more hand disruption on the other side if it comes off the top of Reed's deck. I think we set up for a bit like a kind of a bigger turn next turn, and it looks like she agrees.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Now,
Take Command also is a card that could technically you could get rewarded for keeping that in your hand. Take Command is also a card that works kind of nicely with Lurrus. I do not believe there are any copies in Reed's deck, so double checking that since it is open deck list. Those kinds of things. Just make sure that there's no reason I would want to keep this card in my hand. Ash does her homework and is setting herself up for the best position next turn.
I've just seen the most Reduke thing I've ever seen. I just looked at his sideboard. 15 one-offs. That is the most Reed thing ever. I'm going to keep you guessing how I sideboarded, and one of them is a Colligan's Command, as you said. We're going to see a lot of Survey triggers go on the stack as the bauble gets played for the turn, and now one card deeper gets to know exactly what is on top of Ash's deck, and it looks like we're just going to recast it here. I think he's deciding he wants to get either chump blockers on the battlefield or go for more cards. He's deciding to go for more cards, double Survey trigger again, and then potentially after. This is an interesting. Do you like cracking it now so you draw the 2 for your turn, which by the looks of it, one of them is probably going to be Brainstorm unless that goes to the graveyard, or is the information of what Ash's second card is more important?
I think the game is still quite close enough because of the amount of life that Lurrus is going to be gaining from Ash's side that I would want the resource and I would want to maximize my ability to interact. I think the information is somewhat valuable, don't get me wrong, but because the game's not quite yet over, because we don't yet quite have an answer for our opponent's Lurrus through the Giver of Runes, we want to set ourselves up for as much ability to interact as possible.
Is there a chance that Ash can just win if she rips like another Reign of Truth off the top?
I would love to see it. I'm not going to shy away from saying I'm a fan of that.
I think that genuinely could be the line. No, you let this resolve first. Then you can see, he already knows what the top card is. And then once it's resolved, you draw a card. And then the next card you draw for your turn, you don't know. But looks like you stagger it this way. So land, don't want that. Definitely don't want a tap land at this. And what's going to be on top of our deck? What is it? Who draws to Reed?
Yep. Reed needs double removal spell here. One is a Brainstorm.
He knew about Brainstorm. That's what he surveyed on top of his deck. He might cast this now in response to this second activation of Mistress Bauble Draw. Decides against it. Gets not punished at all because he can just do exactly what we're seeing here. And he gets to hit the double survey as well, so he can really manipulate the top of his deck here. He is digging for these removal spells for this Lurrus. Does not want to give Ash another chance.
To be clear, I believe this is during Ash's upkeep.
Yes.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense here. Ooh, whoa. Those are some crazy good cards here. Treasure Cruise, Iteration, and Brainstorm. Okay, if we don't have an answer right now to the Lurrus, that's fine, but we will be finding one very soon with all the resource drawing that we're going to have here. And wow, okay, he's going really deeper.
It's making me think that there's a real good card on top of Ash's deck. And he's not happy about it. He's like, I need to find an answer.
That maybe too, or maybe he's trying to find the removal spell before the Lurrus can actually draw into another spell.
But then the Giver's on the battlefield.
Yeah,
that's not going to be enough. Oh my word! What is going on? What is going on?
Crazy. Because like Reed's board looked so insane. He had the Bowmasters, he had the double Dragon's Rage Channeler, but then Ash was like, "Well, here's my life linking, value generating Dream Den Cat Beast." I think is it also a Nightmare? And it's kind of funny, just like somehow playing to the board here is wow.
Sorry, Swords Plowshare off the top. Ash has found her answer to Lewis before the Duke does, and this is going to be huge in this matchup.
You can't see my face right now, but I'm like a young child, and I'm just like, wow, look at all these cool toys. This is such a sick match. Wow. Okay, I'm in love with this format. I gotta say it.
It's just like every card's crazy powerful. There's no like bad cards, so to speak. We're seeing everybody just playing absolute powerhouses in Magic. Now, how are we going to get back here? I guess we're attacking with the Lurrus here. That's nice and easy. But do we want to add to that in any way? Is it worth dashing the Ragavan here? Because we know Reed's got no blockers on the other side, and plus we got a giver up. My word! If Reed can get out this turn, though, we see that treasure cruiser in the hand. That's going to give him a real big swing back in the other direction. Is there a way I don't think we can get lethal across this turn.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Ash figure this one out, as I usually do. But at this point, Reed is definitely losing the race. I mean, you could use something like Treasure Cruise to turn these Dragon's Race channelers back into blockers if you really need to. But that's not really a winning situation. So the actual answer here is that Reed is just going to have to use cards like Treasure Cruise and use cards like Expressive Iteration to generate enough resources that will allow him to punch through all these creatures and the Giver of Runes layer of protection.
This is so crazy. So I think Reed might be. He knows the top card of his deck. It's an Inquisition. Oh my word. Oh my word. And we can cast it off the treasure token or off the Springleaf Drum. No! She auto tapper. I think the auto tapper got her.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh
Oh no.
no.
Because Reed also gets to get the only card that she can take out in his hand out of it while taking out the Giver of Runes.
Oh, but gentlemanly Reed Duke targets the Giver of Runes. You love to see it. My goodness. Even in the face of everything, he's like, here. All right.
I've told you many times, Reed is the darling of Magic. He is so good. But I do think Ash would much prefer to have that up than seeing the Springleaf Drum tapped. But well, look, we're all learning together. We're all learning together.
Oh wait, I'm so silly. Wait, Lurrus also had 4 toughness, right?
Yeah. You couldn't deal with the Lurrus because obviously it got +1/+1 from the trigger at the start of turn. So if we fire the lightning bolt off there in response, we've got the Giver will give it.
Okay, I mean Reed. Okay, everything that I just said about Reed still stands true. He's still an angel and he's still a gem. However, it may not have been really that relevant. I guess technically you could have gone after the Ragavan there with a lightning bolt, but the Giver is much more frightening. Lurrus is also really scary. We've got Treasure Cruise coming here with 2 cards going into the graveyard potentially off of this Dragon's Race Channeler, and that means we get 5 looks at a removal spell. After that, if that doesn't work, we also get to play the Expressive Iteration, which is another 5 looks at a removal spell, which means this turn we're gonna basically see like a third of our remaining deck.
Well, we've got the answer now. We've got the Snapcaster. We found the lightning bolt, and that's what Reed is digging towards. We saw so many cards go to the graveyard then off the survey triggers. He needs to get this Lurrus off the battlefield. He cannot afford another Giver of Runes coming back off from the graveyard into play and letting Ash untap with it. He might just be turning the corner here now, or I suppose the other option is he was looking for double lightning bolt and just win the game outright this turn.
I did not even think about that. Yeah. Well, I guess the
next turn. Sorry, next turn.
Next turn. Okay, yeah. Okay, go. So lightning bolt here going to take care of this Lurrus of the Dream Den, and that is going to be maybe what seals the deal here for Ash. I mean, it was close until it wasn't, right? Treasure Cruise Iteration, the power of blue, as it is called, as it is usually referred to here, kind of just taking over now. The point of this game. I mean, this is exactly what you would expect also out of a player of Reed Duke's caliber. He has built his deck in a way that gives him like as much agency as possible, as much ability to leverage his skill, because he knows like, hey, if I can just find my answer, I'll be able to win this game. And he's in that spot right now.
Well, like realistically, Ash she has lethal with the Mutavault this turn, having 3 oh no, it's not lethal. I thought we could attack with a 3/3. I say potentially have, but she doesn't. But Snapcaster would have been hitting the nail in the coffin anyway, I believe, as we're going to see it come down, target fatal push, block, fatal push the other one, and then Ash will be super far behind. But she's just drawn too many land off the top. I think. Well, when your opponent's top decking Treasure Cruises and you're top decking Inspiring Advances, there's only one way the game can really play out. These survey triggers just being out. Hey, look, maybe Deathray Dragon Rage Chandler's in there for the best one drop in Timeless. We've seen it do a lot of work this game.
Yeah, these Dragon's Rage channelers, I'm like, you would not have been in this position without the support of all the selection that this card has given you.
Well, I was about to say Ash not out of the game yet, but then another Treasure Cruise with a graveyard full of cards. It doesn't feel too good here. We're looking for Snapcasters. We're looking for Lightning Bolts. We're looking for ways to finish this game off right now. I'd be super interested to see how many cards are left in Reed's deck, though.
So wait, something like another Reign of Truth would be lethal, right? I mean, obviously Reed's going to play the Deathrite Shaman to at least block.
It would be lethal, yeah. 3, 4, so it'd power up to 7. That is true. It would go through. I don't believe she's got any other ways of getting things back. Let me have a little look at her list. What's her best? Inti's not a great top deck. Ragavan, yeah, I think with an Orcish Bowmaster just being able to provide enough jump blockers.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be coming to the end of this match. Oh my god. Memory lapse is going to pay close to it. She top decked what she needed, and it's just not going to be enough. This memory lapse is going to be able to deal with it.
Oh, wait, you and I were just like Ash out of contention here, and since she's just like, Will, hold my beer, like, and then she just, oh my goodness.
Oh my word, the besties are just heads are in their hands. That is back-breaking. Can she survive another turn? No, she cannot. There's 2 3/3 flies on the battlefield. My word, what a game one there for both our players. Given the GGs, just that shrapnel blast needed one more line of text saying cannot be countered, and that's all it needs. But yeah, unfortunately, I mean, Ash is going to be taking the L in this game one, but it's fine. We've got at least one more game of Magic. If she can pull this one back, we'll be going to a game number 3. We get to see how both these players are sideboarding here, this lovely split screen, courtesy of Jordan working in the background. What sort of cards do we bring in this matchup? Because that game one was grindy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I feel like Reed's deck with the reliance on Delirium for Dragon's Rage Channeler, you've got Deathrite Shaman, Snapcaster Mage, Treasure Cruise, even Lurrus. Cards like Unlicensed Hearts make a lot of sense to me to bring in. Plus, they work very well with all the Thopters that you are creating to get into the red zone if you need to. We also see, I think this is like Declaration in Stone also coming in, and that's an interesting option as well.
We're seeing, like, I'm actually looking at this. It looks like Ash is really tended towards the big mana decks here, like the Titan decks of her sideboard. I think that might be one she's worked out. That's probably one of her worst matchups, and she's really kind of sorted her sideboard out for that. But yeah, a couple of bits of removal, a couple of bits of graveyard hate. Some Grafgear's Cage, obviously that kind of works both ways. If you're a Lurrus deck, going to turn off your side. But redo 15 1-drops, 15 1-offs in your sideboard. And that in an open deck list tournament is huge. For people that have not played in an open deck list tournament, obviously now Reed can play like he has any of those 15 sideboard cards in his hand throughout the whole match. And Ash is going to have to think about that. He's like, okay, could that be a negate? Could that be a Colligan's Command? Could that be a Fatal Push? Could that be an Eliminate? Could that be a Ancient Grudge? There's so many cards that she now has to try and work around, and Reed, being a player at his level, is going to be able to play this matchup to the maximum of his ability, that he could have any one of these in his hand. And that in this sort of high level matchup is so skill intensive, it hurts my brain.
I mean, I'm speechless. That's just what it is. I have nothing to say. I am speechless. Like here's the other thing too, right? Is that this game was actually just like close. It was down to the wire. It came down to the last top deck, right? Normally, you would look at a deck like Reed's and you'd be like, wait, nothing ever really loses to this because you have, all the card draw, you have all the answers, you have all the interaction. But I feel like Ash's deck is like, it's actually just kind of sick, right? Like it showed resilience. Lurrus gives an additional like layer of interaction and threats that it can bring to the table. I'm Reed, don't, if you're watching the VOD here, don't hate me, but I'm rooting for Ash's deck. I'm sorry. We got to get a game 3.
I think the big deal in that matchup, right, was Treasure Cruise. That was the difference. And both of you were top decking Treasure True's just an absolute house. We saw it 1 mana, draw 3 cards with double scry on the battlefield. We just saw it start pulling away, and but now Ash she's kind of got the cards she wants. This is the namesake of the deck. At least that's what we've gone. Talk me through all the different modes of that and how this can be utilized to be so powerful in this deck.
Yeah, Retrofitter Foundry, pretty exciting card. It has 4 modes, I guess. You can pay 3 mana to untap it, 2 mana to I think create a servo, 1 mana to upgrade the servo into a Thopter, and then 0 mana to upgrade the Thopter into a 4/4 construct. Now, what this deck is trying to do is put constructs into play in other ways, like you can see here from the Yosha Declares War. It puts that O2 into play. That means on turn 2, for 0 mana, we can sack that Thopter, and we've got a 4/4 in play. And that gets like dangerously aggressive this early in the game.
Yeah, 4/4's very famously good at dodging lightning bolt, and Reed in response he can't kill it in response because it is a sack trigger. Does have Ancient Grudge in hand though. That is going to be huge for him. He's going to fire off this Inquisition of Kolak, have a little look at the hand, what's going on the other side, and decide how he wants to plan out his next couple of turns. Interesting what he would take here though, because obviously we've got something that makes 2 permanents. We've got something that buffs our permanents and then becomes a creature later on. We've got another Foundry, which we know is the namesake card of this deck. If she starts hitting a few more land off the top and you start getting this real turn on the burning, I don't know if he's going to have enough cards in his deck to keep up with the 1/1 removal. One thing we are, we're only into round 2, but we're not really seeing many sweepers in any of these decks that we've seen so far. No real big way of catching up.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for that too is because the way all these decks are built, they're very interactive. So you try to sort of push you're really min-maxing in these states where you try to advance your board set a little bit, maybe with something like a medium level threat like Deathrite Shaman, but then you're also holding up Lightning Bolt in case your opponent wants to play their Ragavan, for example, right? So the way these games typically will play out is micro advancements, and a deck like Ashes is just like, nah, I'm gonna come out of the gates crashing. I'm aggro. Here's 3/4/4s by the end of turn 2. If you can't deal with it, guess what? Go next, right? Like something like that.
I love that saying. Yeah, just go next then. Just go next. It's fine. You can't deal with this, go next. Okay, we're going to see the second chapter now. It has the option of tapping 2 artifacts if you'd like to get this death right off the battlefield. But we see a stop in upkeep by the Duke. Maybe he's essentially firing off something, decides against it, but also just playing mind games with Ash as well. Like, okay, well, maybe I've got this. Oh, no, you can take your turn. I definitely don't have a removal spell in hand. I definitely don't have any counter spell in hand. You take your turn, Ash. You do what you need to do. And let more mind games upkeep, crack my fetch. Now I've got Revolt turned on in case I have a fatal push. You now need to think about this, Ash. So many detailed. This is why I love Magic and just watching high level players like all 16 that we have in this tournament going through this on both sides. We've got Reed making Ash guess, and we've got Ash at the bottom having to guess, and it's probably a harder job for Ash in this situation as well.
Yeah, and the scary part too is that the way Reed will play this eventually, he basically treats his hand like a butterfly knife, almost something that has he's just like adept, malleable, answers everything. Point, this card at that card, this card at this card, and then suddenly you've crumbled the entire Jenga tower from your opponent's side. We're gonna see here right now. Yosha Declares War is going to go after the Deathrite Shaman. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I see what you're cooking. I see what you're cooking. Deciding that I'm happy for you to use your removal if you've got it, but we're going to go 2 mana Ancient Grudge on the Foundry. Remember, we used the Inquisition to get the 1 out of the hand. So Reed really putting some respect on this card, and kind of knows that this is the namesake card of Ash's deck. Without this, he's going to be able to make himself a bit more favored in this matchup. As the 2 damage gets done to death, right? That's going to go to the graveyard. Plains is the land drop for the turn. Now Reed has full knowledge. Are we going to be hitting Lurrus to hand, or are we going to be deploying one of these 2 drops? I think that's what's going through Ash's head right now, especially while the shields are down. But knowing there's an Ancient Grudge on the battlefield, it's in the graveyard, it's really awkward to try and deploy more artifacts.
Yeah, I think here I mean, Reed did use a discard spell already. I kind of want to just maximize my mana and put the Lurrus in the hand here. You could see Ash is sort of just tanking between the 2 options. Eventually decides to put Lurrus in the hand here. I think this is good. It sets you up for a more powerful turn later on. But then also, like, if you draw a land, for example, next turn you get to play 2 of your 2 drops, and then the sequencing it just lines up better, right? The general principle is like, if you can use your mana, maximize the efficiency of that, right? Because that is the most valuable resource in the game at the end of the day, and it is the resource that does limit what you can do. So investing now means that she'll get the payoff later, and I agree with the decision here to put Lurrus in hand.
It's also like we didn't talk about like how big a line it was that she didn't sack the Fopter to make a 4/4. Like how disciplined she played that turn, and she was like, "No, no, you can use your cards. I'm gonna. This is costing me 0 cards to get your card off the battlefield, and then you're gonna have to use one of your spells to get one of my." So no, she's already just got a 2-for-1 from that real simple interaction. So again, super, you know, well thought out and played turn there by Ash. As we see another Reign of Truth off the top, she really needs a couple of land in, and then she can start getting some huge hits in with this Fopter. Unfortunately, the Ancient Grudge on the other side in the graveyard is going to be playing on her mind quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, Ancient Grudge is one of the few cards that actually just does completely stifle Ash. So she's going to have to come up with a creative solution to sort of mitigate the impact of that card here. Now the next question is, with we really need to hit that fourth land here. We do have Lurrus, but no way to sort of generate value off of it. So putting it into play just yet, not exactly ideal. And oh wow, okay, this is fascinating.
I guess, dropping down to 9 is probably not where we want to be against a deck that we know has Shrapnel Blasts in the main. Just
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, Shrapnel Blast and Lightning Bolt. So she does have the reach. She just needs to get realistically read below 10 for that to be a real scary threat. Spell Pierce finding a target here. That's huge for the Duke. How many
Yeah.
cards are in graveyard? Is Treasure Cruise turned on? Not at least 4, because the Dragon Race Channel has got Delirium.
One thing I do like here too, Reed doesn't even bat an eye. Instantly casts a Spell Pierce here, saying, "Hey, this game state we're trying to trade resources because I have this Treasure Cruise in my hand. If I just trade with you 1 for 1, eventually my graveyard will be stacked, and I can convert that into a 3-for-1 advantage on my end."
I don't think we've seen Ash move as quickly as getting back that Foundry from the graveyard. She knows there's a chance that Lewis isn't sticking around for much longer. But as soon as she ripped that land, straight into play, shock myself, play my Lewis, get my Foundry on the battlefield. I know your Ancient Grudge isn't in your deck anymore because you have cast both sides of it, and I know it's open decklist and you've only got one of them. You've done that now. Now it's my turn to rock and roll. This is my card to try and win the game with. Huge play there by Ash.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky though now because Reed does have a full grip of resources here available and has Lurrus online to potentially this turn if necessary. And on the other side, Ash only does have these 2 copies of Reign of Truth. So there's a piece here of the puzzle that is missing for Ash, but if she's able to find something, she'll be able to convert her resources into a board presence and matter. As it stands right now, still needs a couple more cards.
Well, there's a creature. Obviously, we know on the other side, he's got Lightning Bolt plus Fatal Push and a Lewis if he wants to get cards back from his graveyard, or if he just wants to refill his hand, Treasure Cruise. He's just playing all the good cards that cost like literally 1 mana in this deck, and it's just not lining up well for Ash here. She needs to get something to stick on the battlefield so she can start resolving some of our big hitters like these Reign of Truths, as Fatal Push is going to deal with this giver. And Inquisition goes to the bin from the Survey. Realistically, I suppose it's probably the Dragon Race trying to survey that's really doing the damage here. Just picking the exact cards that Reed needs.
Yeah, and I think this is something that also is one of the reasons why you want to play Dragon's Rage channel, right? Because the selection matters. You look at Reed's board state right now, right? 3 lands, and I don't think he ever really wants to draw another land. He just wants mono action. So the selection that you get from the Dragon Series channel, you see this in Legacy all the time. It's just so valuable. It just cleans out your draws, smooths everything out, makes your deck, makes your everything operate just like a hot knife through butter.
And this is a big difference of both the decks, right? Like Ash doesn't really have any 0 mana spells besides Ornithopter, which isn't really the best card to be getting back with your Lewis, but you can get it back the same turn. Where Reed on the other side, using things like Mishra's Bauble on the other side, just comes back. That's basically drawing him a free card. Plus, he gets a nice little, is it Peek, the card I'm thinking of, where you get to look at your opponent's hand and you draw a card?
Yeah, Peak, Taxiing Probe, things like that, right?
Oh, Shrapnel Blast at the top. Now, there's our answer to Lurrus, but it is going to cost us one of our artifacts in play. Do you want to try and get the big hit in and then sacrifice? We'll be finding out shortly.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I do think we need to get rid of Lurrus right now. The problem is that I don't know if there's a really nice way to spin this, but we are very, very dead to A, the flyer, and then also B, the lightning bolt. So technically, and this is such a hard line to ever actually see. But if you could activate the retrofitter foundry, upgrade your servo into a flyer that could block, and then shrapnel blast the Lurrus, sacrificing the retrofitter foundry, that's never a position you really want to be in. So I wouldn't be surprised here if this lightning bolt Dragon's Rage channeler combo is going to take the second game here for Reed.
Yeah, this is it's just the cards are just not lining up for Ash here. She really needs a bit more breathing room, and Reed's deck's really just putting the pressure on the pressure, more pressure, more pressure, answer, answer, answer. And I think just the way he's built the deck and everything basically costing 1 mana or nothing besides Lurrus is really paying into his favor. Being able to do multiple spells a turn is just really outvaluing Ash with these 2 drops in hand, which aren't really doing too much. But I think she's going the line that you said. She's going to want to try and hold up the block into the shrapnel blast to try and deal with what's on the battlefield. Because at 4 life, she knows you can't take 1 more point of damage because she will put herself within range. But and she's got a Sunbaked Canyon in play. Remember, that also will be doing 1 point of
Oh,
damage.
good call. Good call.
So here's the Dragon Rage channel. Second one, get the double survey. Why not? If we do start casting spells, but it's on Ash to make the move here. Reed's in that really nice situation where you're like, well, look, I'm going to win the game if you don't do anything. Okay, you're going to act. Well, guess I've got these in response, and this is what we're going to see. We're going to see the servo block get sacked to make a 1/1 bop to token. Now we're going to see Shrapnel Blast, I imagine, on the Dragon Rage channeler.
Yeah, but then even on this board state, you have to think from when you're in Ash's position, or maybe even from Reed's spot, what is the potential top deck that can get her out of this board state? And I don't think there is one.
I'm about to say, I don't think there is one, unfortunately. I'm just looking at the sideboards. She doesn't have enough mana for this Declaration Stone and that no. I think she's got 0 outs. But it's timeless. We've said that numerous times today and been proven wrong numerous times. This format is absolutely crazy, stockpiled with powerhouse cards. This is round number 2. Remember, we have got 5 rounds before we cut to the top 4, and find out who is going to be our Creator Clash champion. Ash really in the tank here. What does she need to do? What does she want to do? Does she just high roll it and go, look, I'll drop to 1. That's fine. I think that's what's going through her head right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about ways that you could potentially win the game on the way back, right? So part of that probably includes, you being at 1 life, you have to be able to connect damage, and that means that this Thopter needs to evolve into a 4/4 at some point. That's not going to happen. Lightning bolts here going to deal lethal damage, and Reed Duke is going to take this game and match 2-0 with his Grixis Lurrus deck.
Yeah, Ash is like, no, I'm going out on my own. I'm going to do 1 point of damage to me off my land. That's how it's going to roll. But it looks like we're gonna come back to the booth and we're going to get told if we've got a backup feature match or not. Okay. Okay. So there's 1 match left standing of this round. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to have a break and we're going to play that so you can all watch what is currently happening with the last matchup of this round. And then we'll come back for round number 3. So enjoy what we do. And obviously there'll be Wordle. There's obviously going to be Wordle chat. Don't worry. We know that's what you're here for, really. So stick around and we'll see you shortly.